Welcome one, welcome all, welcome to another exciting episode of Tales of Citizens right here on the Sound Strategy Network, brought to you by Legacy Gaming and Unrepentant Gaming. I am Bridger, I'll be your host today as we ask the deep questions about Star Citizen. We're glad you got here, however you may have found us. Tell a friend or two, won't you? I'd appreciate it. We do record every Sunday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, which right now would be Eastern Daylight Time, for what that's worth. And I would like to introduce you to my co-host for the evening, my good friend, Calathulu. Welcome, sir.
Hey guys, how are we doing tonight?
Are we waiting for the chat to respond now? We'll just wait here for a minute of silence, and then we'll start reading off responds.
We could. I mean, that sounds like a CNN. Actually, I'm not sure we want to go that route. That doesn't sound like good journalism.
Yeah, just open up Twitter, and it looks like someone's reporting that Star Citizen sucks because it's not out yet. Okay, thank you, caller.
It looks like Twitter user I'm actually a gorilla has said ook. Yeah, it's CNN has gone. This is personal time, but CNN's taken a real dive with actually reading tweets on air.
Yeah.
Who in the right? It's not just them. They're just the first that I've seen, but everybody does it. Why?
It was never
great journalists.
It was never journalism, but it's gone to something worse now. It's like pandering.
True. It's all too true.
Yeah, let's just keep watching The Daily Show and carry on, I think, is the motto of our generation. The millennials that don't pay attention to politics and don't vote, etc.
I'm asking you and our audience, you chime in, please. Who's watching The Daily Show without Jon Stewart?
I haven't. Wait, did he leave officially already?
Well,
I thought he was.
From what I understand, he's retiring.
He's retiring. Right. I will give the new guy a chance. Noah something. The South African guy that's been a correspondent there a couple of times. He's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But we got way off track way early.
Oh,
this is going to be a fun show.
This show brought to you by tequila.
Yes, there you go. So we normally start off with a segment we like to call Life in the Verse, where we simply discuss what we've been doing in and out of Star Citizen. That doesn't quite fit into the rest of the show. So I will start because I have a think it.
Uh-oh. That looks confusing. Is it a grenade?
No. It's just a thing that makes a very satisfying click as you move it from one side to the other. And I found out that I really like to just, if I'm sitting there not doing anything, I just like to have something in my hand that I can play around with, whether it's a coin or something. This is super satisfying. Somebody built this especially for me, I think. It was actually kickstarted, so it was probably built for a lot of people that kickstarted it. But it was good. Okay, that's
I am perplexed that exists, but I am glad that our audience could enjoy that. I know I did.
It's a trinket that you think with.
I am further glad that it helps you to think. I know it's helping me to think and correctly articulate my words right now.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
I'm thinking. So if you hear that in the background, that's me being very unprofessional and thinking. I'm going to put this way over here so I don't pick it up by accident, because I will not notice. All right, so what else? What have you been doing, Callie?
A lot of World of Tanks, actually, much to my surprise. After our last show, I had a hankering for it again. So I've been playing that and enjoying the early American tanks, which I've learned possibly second only to the French in the worst tanks in the game. But I hold out hope that it will get better. Other than that, Prison Architect, if you guys are big fans of that kind of a real-time base builder game like RimWorld, unfortunately named RimWorld, Prison Architect, and some other ones. They had a new release. It's Alpha 32, and it brings a lot to the game. Some of the interfaces are still just terrible, but it's a lot of fun to go and build a max-sec prison and then watch all the inmates kill each other.
All right. Well, that sounds good.
It sounds.
It's been in early access for a really long time, hasn't it?
They're doing. It's one of those games again, like the unfortunately named RimWorld, where they're doing early access right. The game is really solid right now. Like you could have fun playing it. It's more of a learning cliff than a learning curve, but it's fun and enjoyable, and it's not laden with bugs, and it's not just this train wreck of a tragedy. It's a good game. They will get it better as time goes on. I'm hoping it'll be at Dwarf Fortress levels of fun by the watching the death spiral. Hopefully your guards get personalities and names, and they also bring in like drugs to the inmates and all that stuff. So I'm looking forward to even more opportunities for my prison to go to hell.
All right. The other things that I've been doing recently is playing Endless Legend again. I got back into that because
it's a fun game.
It's a fun game. Now, they've also patched it a bit since the last time I played, so they've improved some things, and we'll see how that plays out. But the problem that I always had with that game is how it kind of falls apart at the end. And I've been thinking a lot about 4X strategy games, and it occurred to me what I want. Because so much of the time, they all fall apart in the same way. The early exploration and settling new places is really, really fun and engaging for me. Because it's a brand new map and trying to find the right place and deciding between that place, which has a really good production, and this place that has really good food or whatever. But then, as you grow, it becomes harder and harder to really pay attention to each of your cities or your territories or whatever it is individually with the care that you originally did pay attention to them with. And it starts becoming tedious if you actually pay attention to each and every one of them, because now you've got 15 or 20 instead of 5. So you can't scale the games like that, except that the point of the game is usually to take over the world. And you can't take over the world without taking over more cities, so the fact that it scales and gets more tedious as it scales is a problem. So here's what I want to see. I want to see people take the tack that Spore did and have a true 4X game that scales in mechanics as you scale in size, right? So you start as like a small duchy or city-state, and when you grow to having, 2 or 3 major cities, you'll grow into like a duchy at that point. And then when you grow bigger, you can become a kingdom. And then when you grow even bigger, you'll be an empire. And at each of these levels, there are literally different mechanics for how you actually control your territory. And you get less and less direct control and more governors in the way controlling things for you. And that gives you advantages and disadvantages, so that growing large can be problematic if you... I just love that idea. All right, anyway, I'm going way off track.
It's fine. Have you tried Paradox's 4X games?
Oh, yeah. I'm very much looking forward to EU4's big expansion coming out next month.
Because they have some of that.
Yes and no. Yeah. They don't give you a lot of direct control over the territories, but that actually is changing in the next patch, which is interesting. They're giving you the ability to grow tall instead of wide. But that's something we can talk about later. Let's jump back into this here. So the last thing that I've been doing is watching a bunch of people, very charismatic people, play Dungeon World. And this is a tabletop RPG that they are playing in a series called Tabletop R&D, which you can find on YouTube, Tabletop R&D with the ampersand. Roleplay R&D, ROLL play R&D. Dungeon World, Week 1, Part 1. I have the link in the show notes there if anybody wants to check it out. I definitely recommend it because it's got some very charismatic and fun people telling a story and playing through a very interesting adventure. So it's something that I'm going to be listening to while I'm doing various things around the place. But it has, for example, Day 9, which probably a lot of people know, very famous game streamer, as well as DJ Wheat, who was with Twitch, and he's also a famous game caster, and there are a bunch of other very cool people in there. So definitely recommend that. Check them out. Lots of fun, and I'm learning a lot about Dungeon World. So with that having been said, I've closed my notes. GG.
Well.
Thanks, guys. I can't open it again. There it is. Okay, so first, this week we've got feedback. This is from Maestro69 via where else with that name than YouTube. He says...
Reddit?
Well, yeah, you're right. It could be Reddit, too. So he says... Hey, Bridger, thanks for the awesome show as always. Something I want to touch on a little, but one of the concern thread points you made. As per the concept sales, quote-unquote, ruining the game. I do tend to agree with you for the most part, but something that has started to weigh on my mind is that when the game does come out, what will the initial ship population variety be? What kind of diversity would there be? I'm almost to a point where I think CIG should still do concept sales, but once the concept sale is over with, that's it. They are not putting it on a sale again until people get into the public persistent universe. Meanwhile, all starter ships and some mid-level ships such as the Avenger or Gladius could be purchased. It's not like people can't play and test other ships with Wreck or anything. That is kind of where I'm at. Just my 2 UEC on the subject. See you in 2 weeks, unquote.
See, The good news is we have. Oh God, was this? Must have been like 9 months ago now, where Ben actually came out. I know it's like they're having a baby, a very long-term baby. It's
Yes.
an elephant baby, but about 9 months ago or so, Ben actually came out with not stats, but he said, "Hey, we looked at the database and we found that the vast majority of our backers only have one starter ship, and only a few people have more than a starter, and well, few in a population of 600,000 people. It's not just a few, but and then a lot of crazy guys have like a stable of ships. So we already kind of know
Stable.
what it's. Yeah,
Not a hanger.
right.
A
Not
stable.
a hanger. A stable.
I like it.
I'm paraphrasing here, but let's be fair. That's more or less accurate. So we already kind of know what that's going to look like. We're going to have a lot of people that put in more money on the backing and ended up with more ships or higher end ships, but at the same time, the vast majority is going to be just a Mustang, or well, Mustang wasn't even out then, an Aurora, or it'll be what was the other starter?
Mustang. Aurora. Well, that's the new MISC ship, right? The Reliant?
Right, the Reliant, which I imagine some people will switch to when it's available. We'll see how that goes. So we kind of know what that's going to look like. So the good news is, and maybe we could do like an informal poll one of these days among our users, but I'm pretty sure anyone who's watching a podcast on Star Citizen is almost as crazy as people doing a podcast on Star Citizen.
They're probably going to be in the 10 or 20% that has a bunch of different ships or the more expensive ships. But yeah, I could definitely see over 50% of the backers actually having the starter ships exclusively.
Yeah.
And we'll see a lot of people in those starter ships. We'll see, I think it's going to be rare to see an Idris or a Javelin. Well, definitely going to be rare to see those.
Oh, yeah.
But it's even going to be rare to see things that they didn't sell in limited quantities, like Constellation. I mean, everybody throws around, I've got a Constellation. But these are the people that are hanging out on the forums. These are like the 5 or 10% of the community that bought and backed and follows very closely. Constellations aren't going to be everywhere. It was like $300. Not many people are going to spend that much.
Yeah, I still have the argument with the wife from time to time about that. But what are you gonna do? Although to be fair, even more rare than that, it's going to be, say, what was it? The Vanguard ship, the
Scythe, definitely.
Yeah, the Scythe is going to be massively rare, even more rare than
because it was only available during the Kickstarter, and there was a couple hundred people that got it.
$250 or 300.
It was something like that. Yeah.
There were 300 total out there. Plus, if you buy the $15,000 package, which I imagine one person and only one person has done. And so if you've got one, I mean,
I
kudos.
think it'd be almost a perfect curve between like cost of ship to how many of them will be it'll be a perfect inverse relationship when we actually get out into the persistent universe when the game starts. You're going to see a massive, huge ton of starter ships, and then you're going to see a few 300Is, a few freelancers, a lot less constellations, and a lot less Carracks, and then you'll get to the things like the Idrises and the Javelins, et cetera, et cetera. So, and the Hornets are in there somewhere in between, probably a freelancer and a constellation, because I think they were right about in between there in price. Anyway, that's what I think we'll see.
Should we delve into mechanics for a second, though?
Sure.
Because I think that's going to have an impact on the ships you see a week after launch or 2 weeks after launch. A Hornet has the fuel to get through one jump, approximately. So how many people who have just a Hornet are going to be happy with that when their Aurora can make 4 or 5 jumps because you can add, 10 units of fuel to it in the cargo pod or, whatever it's going to be. So just based on the whole carrier-based versus the Vanguard, which is not carrier-based, has far fewer guns.
You're saying a lot of Hornet users are going to be very disappointed.
Yeah, they're going to go real fast, then real slow, and then never do that again unless they can get somewhere. And I say this as a man who owns a Hornet. I love the Hornet. It is awesome. Super Hornet's a great vessel, but I am not looking forward to transiting the galaxy here.
Much like an actual Hornet.
Yes.
You'll have a swarm of Hornets following around Starfarers as the queen that they have to protect. The hive of Hornets.
Pirate operation, 1 gas giant, 1 Starfarer, scooping the fuel, and then going out to wherever it is they need the thing and back. So
and sticking with the insect theme, you can have a caterpillar around to carry all the loot.
All the booty.
Why are we saying... I looked... There's 894,000 Star Citizens listed on the funding page. How did we get there?
The last I recall was like 600K, and I could swear that was only a month ago.
Yeah. Are they artificially I could have sworn we were still at 350,000. I haven't. Last time I checked, which may have been months ago, was 250,000, and now all of a sudden we're at 800 and 900,000. That's ridiculous.
What did they release that got attention? Maybe it was the footage of the FPS.
Maybe, yeah. The recent PAX East, maybe it was enough, but that's a lot of people. Anyway,
or, you know what? We could have a ton of people in the next topic. A ton of people all about Hyper Vanguard Force.
Hyper Vanguard Force.
Is it Force 4 actually?
Oh, it is Force. Hyper Vanguard Force 4. What? Yeah. Well, okay.
It's like the first Star Wars, not the crappy Star Wars. The first Star Wars, Episode 4, A New Hope.
Yeah. So, I am definitely a huge fan of this, and this was like some guys doing this in their spare time. It's great. I cannot.
Hyper Vanguard Force.
Oh, there it is. I love the Arena Commander music.
Yes.
That is like
8-bitted. Yep. But I've been planning on building a MAME cabinet forever. I need to build one and then just get that center portion to show up on the whole display.
Right?
Kind of like what you're doing there. And then get it to work with the MAME, like the actual arcade buttons and stick.
Yeah. I'm gonna play now.
I can see you're doing that, and I'm strangely distracted by it. That could be the alcohol, or it could be my own incipient ADD. We'll see. And no, for reference, viewers, I don't have ADD. We're fine.
I think that not obviously it's well designed from the aesthetics of the visuals, the 8-bit whatever, but the game actually plays very well, despite only being on the mouse. Like you would think, hey, they didn't actually use like the keyboard and everything, but it's so well designed because something I didn't even notice until like I got through this. I was through the second level.
Yeah.
You let go of the fire button, you get a shield that you can use to just absorb damage.
Oh, very cool. I
did not
notice that myself.
I never noticed that, but if you stop shooting, you can just crash into things, and it'll use up your shield. I'll be honest.
In these games, I never stop shooting. I just hold down the button to fire, so I've learned a lesson there. But I'm going to point out one more thing. The fact that they only use mouse controls for this only shows that they are not balancing all of the controls.
Yeah, why don't we have joystick control for Hyper Vanguard Force?
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
Where's my gamepad? This is just more proof that they're not doing their job right.
But really, here's the other thing about this. You have another... they're showing favoritism, really. The fact that you can just let go of the button and crash into an enemy ship with your shield and use that to absorb... It's clearly showing favoritism toward Red Faction.
It's true. The Test Faction is going to have a field day crashing their Auroras. Although, they wouldn't waste a Vanguard on just crashing, would they? Isn't that their whole thing? They're going to launch 1,000 Auroras. Oh,
yeah, that's true, but you can use the...
So we would need to go back and actually get that Aurora Crash game released by one of the users of Test Faction.
Oh, was that the one that was like Flappy Bird?
Yep, it was like Flappy Bird, only with an Aurora. Yep. So, they've already got their trainer built. Their simulator for this is already set.
This is one of the hardest spots in the entire game to begin with. Whoa, okay. I don't...
Dodge, man! No! Oh, surprise butt sex. Oh, no. Oh, hey, you made it.
What? Well, I tell you, here's the other beautiful design about this. It gets easier and easier the more you play it.
Yes.
Except that it does get harder and harder the further you get in the game, but it does get easier and easier because you get these like little experience point things that you just keep spending, and it remembers your progress. It ties it into your RSI account. It must tie it into your RSI account.
It does. Apparently there are badges, and I saw someone mentioning in the chat earlier. And for those of you confused by the terminology I just used as Bridger blows up here, if you're not a fan of The Mighty Jingles, an excellent World of Tanks and War Thunder podcaster, you should watch any of his shows. Number one, you'll give him mad revenue, be thrilled to death. Number two, he always uses that term when a light tank sneaks up behind a heavy or medium tank and then just has their way with them. A little rough handling, as he says. He's very English, and I keep hoping he's going to say he's a sneaky butcher, but no one has yet. So we need to bring that term back, by the way.
That's a term?
Vernacular from the 70s for an alternative lifestyle.
Oh, I see. All right. Bringing things back to Star Citizen.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
one of the things that, it occurred to me that the little leveling up system make things easier and easier, but they've also got those sort of achievements where it's like, okay, Iron Man mode, you can't take any damage and you have to kill every ship in the thing. And those actually aren't even possible unless you level everything up. So it's this brilliant system that allows people who aren't good at this style of game to eventually beat it regardless. But if you want to get those ultimate achievements, they did add that level of difficulty in. That's great. I love it. It's super well designed that way. And it's just really good all around.
So yeah, for something done in spare time, it's very well done. Hopefully they'll release it as a phone app, and then we can spend $1 for it, and that will get them yet another revenue source, and we can claim it's all pay to win, and we're good to go.
It's certainly more fun to play that right now than it is to play with Missile Commander on online.
I had that same thought.
Somebody showed the stats for the ships that were highest ranked in the actual rankings and stuff for Arena Commander, and it's like the Gladiator is up there in every single way that you can move the stats around to just get most points per hour, highest ranked, most kills per death. It's just ridiculous how much.
Yes. See, I think for you, what this should say is you really hope they don't fix the missile system before your freelancer Miss gets in there.
Exactly right.
And you can one-man about 40 of those damn gladiators and then move on with your life.
Bring it on, Test. I got 40 missiles ready for you. Although, let's be specific. They said it was 56.
Touche.
I just like it.
Touche.
I just like to be known.
Well, you'll 40. The 16 are reserve. Maybe an asteroid has annoyed you.
Right.
Yes.
So, on to other news. The Oculus Rift finally has a release date.
Yes, and I'm going to renege on my earlier statement. I know I have TrackIR. I love TrackIR. Now that the actual Oculus Rift is coming out, I am highly tempted to pick one up as soon as it comes out. I'll pre-order the thing and everything because I took a look at what they have done with it, and it addressed almost all the complaints I have with the Oculus Rift. The only one it doesn't address is I still can't see my control surfaces, but I've now memorized these surfaces so well that no, it bothers me anymore.
So, what did they exactly... Because the article that I found didn't have a full list of things that they're trying to fix between the developer kit 2 and the release.
Okay, well, first let's do the release date. First quarter 2016, so you got a while. There's no big rush, and I think that puts it behind the HTC virtualization. It
does. That's supposed to be the end of this year. The Valve Vive.
Yeah.
The Valve Vive. I think that's why they decided to call it the HTC Vive. Because the Valve Vive doesn't jive.
It sounds like some kind of procedure. I'll be honest with you. I've gone into the doctor, and my Valve Vive is up. Yeah.
Oh no! Did they say how long?
Yeah, and and I don't have the article in front of me for what's actually the tech specs of it, so I'm doing this from memory. It may be wrong, and if it is wrong, I want you to write to Bridger at feedback@talesofcitizens.com and let him know how wrong he was, because I was fine.
Don't worry, so feedback@talesofcitizens.com goes to him as well. So.
That's true. I do actually get that, so you can curse me out all you want. But what I understand, they improved the resolution of the screens, which was a nice step up because that keeps it in competition with the Valve HTC Vive.
Right.
And then they extended the view, the panoramic view a little bit, which one of my complaints was it's such a narrow view and it needs to be a little wider. Because when I game with flight sims, I like having 3 monitors set up, and you at home cannot see this. One day we should do pictures of our battle stations just to show people what it's like. So I like having 3 monitors, and then that extended view range is awesome. When I'm playing Arena Commander with TrackIR, I can look around, I can see things, I can catch things out of my peripherals. It's wonderful. If you want to spend the money buying refurbished Dell panels, go for it. So, and the only issue I would have, and this is something that Lumavox brings up in the Twitch chat, is it's still worth buying 3 monitors if you're going to use a VR system? And the answer is maybe. It depends. It depends on the games you play and whether or not you really like the system that's set up. And here's the thing: now that the Oculus Rift has a release date, you can probably return it if you hate it. Pay your restocking fee, whatever it's going to be. I know some people have real issues with it because of vertigo and because of nausea that they feel. I know somebody actually apparently threw up the first time they ejected out of Arena Commander, and their character went spinning through space so rapidly that he just lost it.
Wow.
Yes. So they actually have fixed that in Arena Commander since, which is good news.
Yes. Yes, it is.
all of the users out there who enjoy their Oculus Rift. So, at any rate,
So there's
I'm
so
going
so
to.
theoretically, with the improved resolution, the screen door effect has been gotten rid
That
of.
is that is the theory. Is that the screen door effect is not it may not be gone, but is less prevalent, and that works for me. Now, my last experience with before the Oculus Rift with the VR set was in the '90s when they had that headset that came out, but everyone got blinding headaches when they used it because they hadn't synced up the
Hmm.
two displays into the eyes. So, if you ever want a blinding headache, you know how.
Yeah,
So,
so we don't have a price for the Vive or for the Oculus, as far as I know. That has not been
mhm,
released. There are a lot of different people speculating. I think the first release of those items is going to be somewhere in the $300 to $350 range at a sort of
yeah,
a minimum. However, I think by the time you get to version 2 or 3, they might be getting down to the $200 to $250 range. And that is really the key part. It has to be about the cost of a nice monitor in order to really
yes.
start becoming ubiquitous.
It really does. And the other thing is with the price point of 350, it's a little higher, if I remember correctly, than the dev kits they initially had,
Mm-hmm.
which makes sense because this is the refined product. The Kickstarters, all those people who got in before Facebook bought them. And that is actually one of the things I've been reading about is this a release date being forced by Facebook now they've been acquired? In my opinion, based on their state of development, no. But I have no actual insight into the state of development or where they're at or what their company is like. So
Well, the dev
who
kit
knows?
2, that came out at least, what, 10 months ago?
Yeah, about a year, yeah.
Almost a year at least. So
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, they've had almost a year of development past that point, and probably when the Dev Kit 2 came out, they had already been working. That had been locked in a couple of months before that. So let's say at least 12 months since then, and then they've got another 6, maybe 4 to 5 months before they have to actually start production to try and hit
Yes.
that quarter 1 date where they can actually ship the product. That's a
Yeah.
lot of additional time, and it doesn't make sense for them to put out an intermediary dev kit 3 if it's really
Yes.
just hardware improvements and the dev kits themselves aren't going to need to be changed for people to figure out if their games work properly in them, right? I mean, I'm sure they'll
Absolutely
have
true.
a consumer dev kit version for actual developers at some point once the thing actually launches, but at this point, I don't think it's necessary. Now, let me ask you a few questions, Calathulu.
Hit me.
How
Hit
fast is
me.
this going to take off, do you think? Is it going to be
Uh,
something that all gamers are going to feel like they need to have?
well, let's put it this way. As far as the advantage it can give you, when you can use your head look and peek around a corner, I mean, in track IR in first person shooters right now, that gives me a massive advantage. I mean, let's face it. Face it, I am a piss poor FPS player when it comes down to it. I am terrible at them. But when the track IR stuff's enabled, I'm really good at positioning and knowing where I'm at and where I need to be. Because you can just peek around a corner, look down the way, and then pull your head back and not get shot if you're quick. So I know what's going on. I know what's coming, and so I can reposition accordingly. I can scream on my keyboard, help, 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 whatever it is I have to do in games that enable that functionality, like Arma 3. So the Oculus Rift is in some ways a step up and in some ways a step down from that functionality. And I say step down only because if it's perfect, I still can't see my keyboard to hit the key saying help, 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 help. It might be in some games Z, then hit 7, then hit 1, and it sends the comm out. I'm kind of giving an old Wing Commander version of how you do comms and command your wingmen and things like that. So in the first person shooter aspect of the game, it is going to be something that you will find handy and useful. And if you're doing a flight sim, in the hardcore flight sim mode, which basically Star Citizen is going to be when you're in the ship, looking around and viewing up and down and looking around your cockpit and not just staring at the radar, which may not show what you're looking for, will also be a big advantage. Now, does everyone have to have one? No. I think that the existing way, the way you use things, some people have like the little hat switch they use to find things and they look around that way. Some people have, like Track IR or the Free IR or the other, head look options that are out there. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get one.
There's also a setting in the game that lets you track
Yes.
targets automatically, so it will move your head
Yes.
in the game to follow targets so that you can easily see where they're going, which is a thing that most of these flight sims have done all the way back to like Chuck Yeager's Air Combat, as far as I recall. That was always very important.
Now, but in 10 years, I think everyone's going to have something, whether it's the Oculus Rift kind of thing, or if the sim pits take off, because I know that's been a lesser push because it's more expensive, takes more space, but who knows? I mean, if we get to the point where a holographic kind of image that's just displayed onto a white screen in front of you is the thing, and you can actually just look around, that would be awesome.
Yeah, the thing that I think is going to be needed for it to really take off, like I said, is going to be that $200 price point. Because, as I understand it, you also need a very specific graphics card or a stronger graphics card, one of the newer ones, in order for it to really be able to take advantage of it. So not only you're going to need that $203 Oculus, you're also going to need a $203 graphics card. So now you're doubling the price of whatever we're looking at here. That's a big investment that only probably the top 5 to 10% of PC gamers are going to be able to make.
Well, no one wants to spend that money if they can possibly avoid it. But it's just how it goes. We who are the PC master race, which is everyone who's listening to this podcast, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
We understand the necessity of spending money, and I'll use the same line that I've used for years to explain the hobby. It's probably cheaper than a motorcycle and less life-threatening.
Yes, that's true. Now the other thing though is you gotta make sure that as a member of the PC master race, you understand. You got to be understanding. Because not everybody can afford, a $2,000 sim pit or a computer upgrade every year. I was one of those people for quite a long time in my high school and college years. I could not afford the upgrades I wanted, so I played the games that were 2 years older than the games that I wanted to play. So you have to also consider those people, because even though they're not the ones pushing the envelope of the hardware, they're not buying the latest and greatest, they are probably a good chunk of the audience. The people that are 2 years behind are probably a good 40 to 50% of the people who are going to buy your games. So that causes... So the good news is that it seems like it's fairly easy for games to support Oculus, but at what point are they going to make games for the Oculus, make games that couldn't really be made with a 2D monitor?
That's a great question. It's not something that's on the horizon right now that we've seen. I mean, there are some tech demos, but other than that, I'd say 5 to 10 years maybe we'll start looking at something requiring really good head tracking and really good movement. But the Oculus and the Vive do bring up another point, which is a little bit of concern to me, which is for years we had issues where this graphics card couldn't play that game, or use a different graphics library and things like that. What happens when Star Citizen's written with Oculus Rift in mind, but you've got a Valve, HTC, so you can't use it anymore because there's just not quite the right one-to-one mapping. At some point, the gaming industry needs to sit down with each other, shake hands, and agree to a standard of these are the inputs, this is the interface. We'll all write to that. All the hardware agrees that it'll meet that.
Right.
And then how it meets that is the implementation.
A standardized API. And I think of anybody, Valve is probably the one leading the charge on making things standardized in that sense. And they might not already be in discussion with Oculus and saying, hey, we'll both benefit if everything can just work with our peripherals. This is a new hardware. It's untested on the market. It could flop. The last thing we need is to split our potential markets into, the Oculus works for game X, Y, and Z, and the Vive works for A, B, and C. And then now you have even less of the market per company, and then they just have to give up the whole hardware race because it's all screwed up. So, some third party comes in and says, here's an open standard, and then defeats the other two. That's entirely possible. The other problem that I've been reading about recently is the NVIDIA GameWorks. Is a system that NVIDIA has been pushing, where they'll send out their consultants to various game developers and offer a bunch of pre-made code. Like, here's some stuff that'll make your stuff run extra good. We made it all for you already. You can just use it. And by the way, NVIDIA's the way it's meant to be played. So the thing is, though, that NVIDIA GameWorks code does make it run really well on NVIDIA cards. But the AMD guys cannot make their drivers to run really well with the GameWorks because the GameWorks is all proprietary and the developers are not allowed to share it with AMD, and NVIDIA isn't going to share it with AMG. So now we are potentially entering that old era where you have to go, well, is this one of those games that only works on NVIDIA cards? Like, that's a really, really bad thing because it could either A, drive AMD right out of the business, and that would be horrible. We have been so lucky to have 2 major graphics card manufacturers and 2 major CPU manufacturers last this long in the gaming and computer hardware space, because without that, we would have had a lot less progress, I gotta say.
Though to be fair, now that one of the gaming card manufacturers is the same as the chip manufacturers, I'm a little bit worried that when that one does go, if it goes.
Oh yeah, now they're one and the same. You got to prop up AMD and make sure that they do okay. Otherwise, we're in big trouble.
To answer Ashlyn Dastile's comment there, it is not that the embarrassment is for the beardless. It is only that loser shaves.
I see. So, as much as I love my NVIDIA cards, and I've been buying them for like the last 4 generations because they're just better at the high end, I'm very disappointed with their business practices, and I hope that they don't cause some major issues and rifts in the gaming hardware just when it's getting really good with VR in the future and things like that.
If it follows the same trend we've seen before, it'll be rocky. The manufacturers realize this is a terrible situation for us and our customers. If it was just for the customers, they may not care so much, let's be honest. And then they will say, we don't want to get anyone in an antitrust situation, so let's all agree to a standard, and then it will go well. But when that happens, or how that happens, and in a niche market, which is what VR is right now, I see a couple of standards kind of kicking up. So we'll see how it goes. And it may be that, developers for a while write support for both, and they have varying levels of support and what's better and what's not. I mean, look at OpenGL versus DirectX. Some games do great with OpenGL, some do better with DirectX. For a long time, it was one or the other. Then games started supporting both, and then now you never really think about it anymore.
Yeah, it's probably going to be like 2020 by the time that this all shakes out and we really get a stable gaming market. Yeah. But even then, maybe by then we'll have like the holodeck showing up on things. Like, you've already got Microsoft's HoloLens. I want to call it the HoloLens, like holoback lens, but that doesn't. That's not good. The HoloLens, but now that doesn't sound good either. No, it has to be HoloLens. And now I just imagine it being spelled HOLLOW, and I'm like, what's so bad about this lens? Why does it not feel complete? What is missing from its life? And so there's no way I can say that without making it sound terrible. Is what it comes down to. So
yes,
yeah, it could definitely be an issue. And then, of course, you're going to have people demanding that you have tournaments where only monitors are available and separated, separate but equal. Monitor and Oculus people are going to be separated, otherwise it's not fair. And that they very well might be right. I think this is a big enough change that if you were looking at like FPS games and simulations, that like Star Citizen is going to be both, that you're going to have a major issue with one side having a pretty big advantage on how they move their character around.
So in the esports world, you foresee a time when we get back to the Cold War era East German women all on steroids with beards and mustaches? Is that what we're going for here?
What? Okay, Callie, I normally go along with you on a lot of different things, but I have to shut that analogy down right now.
Oh, you're not fun. I can't harken back to a Reaganism. Very well.
No, not allowed. Not on my watch. All right, so I'm a Grover fan myself. No, so next piece I wanted to talk about, aside from the Oculus, is that 80% of backers, according to this poll, are excited about non-combat over combat.
I'm going to raise my hand right here. I am more excited about non-combat than combat. And that's true for EVE as well when I played it. I was really big into trading and mining and running that. Now, I got into combat, and I got into it in a big way in EVE, and I do it now, obviously. I've got my fighter ships and whatnot. I enjoy it. But for a game like this, much like Freelancer, non-combat, I'm telling you, is where all the money is. Then you can fund all of your combat needs.
Okay. You want to hear my thoughts on this?
I do.
It's real simple, and it's
here.
real. Its poll says 80% of people are more interested in non-combat than combat.
Well,
This is bullshit.
That's
yes,
what I think.
I'm
going to
that.
bring it the man. That's bullshit. No, there's no way. I mean, it's just not possible. The whole thing was sold on like fighting spaceships. That's how the whole game was sold. You're telling me people got involved and then said, no, I want to truck things around. No, because all of the comments in this thread are people like, well, you know, I'm really interested in exploring, but I'm going to bring around a big gun for when something happens. Like, because if nothing ever happened and there was no danger, you wouldn't have a lot of fun. It would just get tedious and boring after a while. So what happens is these people are like, oh, yeah, I'm interested in the non-combat things as long as there's the threat of combat on the outside. Like, well, then you just answered wrong.
Even then, I'm going to go with number one. I don't know about the scientific
This
nature
is bullshit.
of
This is
poll.
bullshit.
It sounds
This is
like bullshit. You can't play me off, man. You called me.
I did. That's true. That's true.
No, I mean,
I'm looking at the threads and just clicking that button.
I understand. I understand the love of non-combat and the love of combat. I mean, hardcore flight sim fans. I mean, I am one. I play it a lot. I love the combat aspects of it. And this game, Wing Commander, that's all it was. TIE Fighter, possibly my favorite game of all time. All combat. But I understand the enjoyment of non-combat as well. I don't see 80%. I mean, the thread's going to be biased for one simple reason. My feel, and this is all non-scientific, so you can yell at me if you like, my feel is that the players, for the most part, who are not combat-oriented feel a little left out with FPS, first-person shooter, Arena Commander, a flight sim, arcade-ish style kind of thing. It's got hardcore aspects, don't get me wrong. They're feeling a little left out because there is no, hey, get convoy from point A to point B, nor should there be at this point. But that could explain why the 80% was such an overwhelming majority. Even those who want combat and enjoy it and look at that whole fighting aspect as a good thing, feel that the non-combat aspect has not been addressed at this early point in development. So you're getting a groundswell there, I think, at best.
The other thing to consider is that the only people actually answering that poll are people who are too stupid or too masochistic that they actually go to the Robert Space Industries forums. Or they're doing research like me. It's all for research purposes, people. Yeah. It's just research. I only do it for the articles.
I was going to point out you were calling yourself out on that one because you found the link, but okay, very well.
I have to give that third option. Now, the other interesting poll here is that only 20% of the people who bought a Hull A actually plan to use it for the purpose of which it was designed. The other people are using it so that they can cross-class upgrade into a B or a C later when they decide what they want to do, or they were getting a cheap ship with LTI that they can cross-class upgrade into a larger ship before the Persistent Uniforce launches. Or this is the most weird, 12%, I got it for some other reason. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
It's a little concerning. Maybe when the Oculus Rift comes out, we'll know what that reason is. But no, it's. I think there's another option in there that they've not addressed, which is 20% of the user base members of Test Faction, because then they could be using that Hull A to ram larger ships
with explosives in the trunk. Of course.
There you go. See, you get that reactive fuel in there, and you just go balls out as a large convoy tanker ship can go and hit something with it. It's perfect.
Yeah, I'm not sure it can turn fast enough.
No.
That's why the Auroras make good ramming speed ships.
You're going to be hitting other slow ships. I mean, maybe you can get a Hull A to hit a Banu merchantman or something. And for reference, if you see me in the verse, do not hit my Banu merchantman, because then I will get into the combat ship and come after you. Let's be clear.
Well,
that's right.
Good.
I'm calling out those of you who would desire to ram my merchantman. We won't mention any kind of strange analogy to that. No.
Is that going to be like one of those chicken things where you just sit there waiting to see who blinks first? And you've got I Need a Hero playing in the background?
Yes. Maybe Eye of the Tiger. We both sitting across the way. We kick up the engines. Here comes the Hull A. Here comes the merchantman. Boom. Yeah.
Sure.
That could be fun. Yeah, let's go with that. It's
all right.
It's the worst combat ever.
Yes, but speaking of the best combat ever, let's talk about Star Marine, because we had a big upgrade since the last show where they talked all about Star Marine and the fact that, back at PAX East we said it was going to be out in like 2 weeks, and it's been like about 2 months,
right.
almost.
I have a combat, and it might be the mild buzz I have off of 6 ounces of tequila, but I have a comment, not combat, comment, and that is, if at this point you think that any of the off-the-cuff deadlines that have not passed the dick-punching machine that are given, I mean, don't forget, that comment on this show, don't forget that are
Yes.
given by anyone at Cloud Imperium are accurate, I have a bridge to sell you somewhere near Bridger's house.
Ah, yes. There is a small brook nearby that I've been meaning to get over, but I haven't been able to do it because there's no bridge. So,
and
that
for
could
low
help.
500,000, I can get you that bridge.
So, Star Marine, based on this post, which was about 2 weeks ago, sounds like it's going to be coming out in June sometime.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably for the best, obviously. The other thing I meant to ask you earlier, one of the first things... So, the Oculus Rift release date was Q1 2016. So, Callie, we need to start a pool. How long until they push that release date back to Q3 2016?
Oh, see, I don't I don't know that anything that the Oculus folks have put out has been late per se. I haven't tracked them quite as closely, but my real question is, when do we get the full support promise in the Marine Commander Star Marine engine? Because that would be when we push back.
Yeah. So, anyway, there's a lot of interesting things going on in this article that I wanted to touch upon. First, they discussed that it's going to be in a more finished state than Arena Commander when it comes out, which is very exciting to me, because one of the reasons I don't play Arena Commander is because it's filled with bugs that they already know about. And one thing that I saw... Yeah, Missile Commander. One of the things that I saw in here was a quote from Chris Roberts. He said, quote, "What it does mean is that we need to address everything we possibly can before we release the first version, because there's no sense in getting feedback when we know further work is needed," unquote. Yeah! That's so... Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
I'm glad that we
lesson.
got to see Arena Commander first, but it really was feeling like all we were doing was reporting obvious things that they already knew about.
My ship doesn't fly. Well, okay, fair enough. What causes that? I load the game. Yeah, we've had
Every
those.
time anything touches with a light caress the back of my 300i, the engine falls off. Well, yeah, that's a known issue of the model. Turns out they used really crappy bolts. The engine just doesn't stay in there.
It just flies off on its own.
Yeah, pretty much. So, anyway, that is very exciting. And part of the reason probably is that this is a first-person shooter engine. It was designed for first-person shooters, so the code they can use a lot more directly, whereas they had to re-implement and rebuild all the code for the ships because they were probably building on top of the vehicle code in the Far Cry, the CryEngine 3. But it obviously wasn't suitable for flying through space with a full physics simulation. So
It is now. It is now.
yeah,
Or it's getting
fairly
there.
well. Yeah. So I mean, and plus the other thing is that first-person shooter mechanics are really mature. Like, we know what it's supposed to feel like. We've got code designed to let you shoot things with a gun right in front of you,
But
in a first-person environment.
Do we all have code in all the first-person shooters to grab your down Marine and drag his ass back to cover, and then stick the adrenaline in his heart, and then watch him scream in pain? Because that's the code I want to see.
Yeah. Whoa. Okay. Maybe.
Let's not talk about my personal life in this episode at all. But that's the code I want.
So, I have to say, there's a couple of really interesting things in here. Specifically, the thing that I liked is, A, look at this lightning gun. That's awesome.
Yes, straight out of Half-Life. I love it.
And the HUD looks very cool, of course.
Yeah.
They've shown off that before. We've got a bunch of different images of the work-in-progress armor that they're reworking. That sort of outlaw armor looks always very cool.
I want the outlaw armor, and I want it to have a whole like Borg eyesight on it with the laser that shoots out, and then I can just make comments about assimilating.
Yeah, this already looks like a Cyberman when you look at it.
Yes, it does. It really does.
You will be assimilated. Shunk, 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 shunk.
Yeah.
So they've shown some new updates to the various environments that we've already seen. But one of the things that got me really interested was the videos of their animations, which already look really good. But they showed a motion capture shoot specifically, and it looks really interesting. I mean, they're treating it very much like a movie would, with a director giving orders and things like that. And I believe I remember them saying that the people that they've got here are actual veterans of combat. They've had military training.
I recall that now. You're right. You're absolutely right.
And that gives a much more realistic than if somebody was like, well, I've seen movies where people shoot guns and hold guns. I know how they go through clear a door, right?
Well, it's funny. I got some friends at Turtle Rock in the area, and when they were working on a first-person shooter, they actually went out to Vegas to do like firing machine guns to see how it felt in that. But I can't imagine it was anywhere near as good as, say, having an Army Ranger come in and do the same things he would do when clearing a building. So, yeah, this is going to be an extremely interesting and cool, I think, animation-wise feature of it. How do you hold a gun? Never mind, we've already found some of the bugs where, if your wrist is breaking, you hold the rifle. Yeah. Separate issue entirely. But the animation should look good despite the multi-jointed wrist, which could be, I don't know, maybe humanity's evolved in the future. And we now have, wrists that go in 16 dimensions.
Yeah, that makes sense. But the fact that what the other thing I noticed is when they hold up the little director, I don't know what you call that, the little thing that they clip right there, the board, the scene board thing. It's actually got little balls that they use to track the motion capture thing on. So apparently that is captured on the mocap software as well. They're capturing that little and go, scene one, take one, go, whatever.
So is this going to be like an excerpt?
The slide. I think that's the slide.
Okay, you get to the end of Star Marine, the FPS in Star Citizen, and then you get to see like the making of as like a special feature, and you can see the clipboard reanimated in the game.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
Accidentally see that, I was playing through the game, and then all of a sudden this ghostly thing just came out and clapped forward, and then disappeared again. I was like, what happened?
Straight out of what was that? The sci-fi horror that got really big for a while, first-person shooter style.
Oh
man,
I know exactly the one you're talking about.
Yeah, and I can't recall the name. And
it started with a D. Dread wasn't Dread.
No, it wasn't Dread.
It wasn't Despair.
It wasn't
Dead Space.
Dead Space. There it is. Okay. Was it? I'll take Dead Space.
For such a generic name, we couldn't figure it out. Like, what was the cool name they had? Nope, they just took two words and put them together. Compound word, Dead Space.
See, and Jonathan Marcel in the YouTube chat has said it's a slate. The little
slate.
Board
that's the word. I was like, that wasn't slide. It's slate. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and you're right. But yeah,
because it used to be made out of like chalkboard.
And they would write the scenes on it. Yeah. But Dead Space, the name is generic, which is why it's hard to recall. But oh damn it, I was going somewhere with this, and now I've completely lost the thread on that.
Something about Dead Space motion capture?
No, it wasn't motion.
Nope.
Oh no. Yeah.
Blame it on the tequila.
The slate will clap down. Yeah, the slate will clap down and scare the hell out of you right in front of your face, and it took the moody part of Star Marine. And you're good to go. When they get a first-person, all-bot version of the game, because, again, we know that the AI for Moon Collider is coming in pretty quickly, too. And it's looking pretty good.
That's nothing compared to Fear, though. The first Fear had some really freaky moments. God, and they weren't all necessarily... I mean, they were jump scares, but they were done super well. Yes. Because I had, up until that point, I'd never seen a game utilize the fact that they could spawn things next to you without your knowledge. Like, you climb up this ladder, and it's an animation that just plays as you're climbing up the ladder, or climbing down the ladder or something. And when you get to the top, your character turns around to get off of the ladder, and there's somebody right there. It's like I had no control, and they were right there, and I'm like, they were right there. Like, you could walk into a room, look left, and then keep going straight, and then look left again to the spot you just looked at half a second ago, and there was something there. You're like, what? That wasn't there a moment ago. Oh my god, I thought the room was clear. And now you think all the time you have this thing crickling on the back of your neck, like there's something behind me. There's something behind me. I know I just looked, but there's something behind me. There's nothing there. There's nothing there.
Yeah. And then there is. See, now I know exactly where the Supernatural TV show got all of their ideas from.
Sure.
No, let's be fair. I actually enjoy that show a little bit. It is exactly what you get out of a TV show. But still, all of their horror films or scenes are like that. Nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. Oh my god, there's something there. Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about the big thing that they talked about in this SATA Ball. First of all, what does SATA stand for? Obviously, it's not serial ATA.
No, I mean let's have some fun with it. What do we think SATA could possibly stand for that is not serial ATA?
It could
Uh,
be.
South African Transgender Association. Let's go with that.
I was gonna say soccer, analogous, team activity. Yeah, that's something to go
Okay,
with.
soccer analogous team activity. I like mine more, but I'm with you. Let's see. You know what? All I see in reference to SATA on Google here is 24 SATA, and let's not even give the website out. It is something in Ukrainian, and I have no idea what
What
it
did you look
says.
for? SATA and Star Citizen?
SATA Sport.
Ah, well,
Yeah.
I don't think you're gonna find it there.
No, we're making a
I'm just saying your Google Foo is crap. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, no question there. I don't argue that. I mean, all of my Google Foo is based around looking up, shoot a thing around. Thank you, Mr. Son von Harvey. I love it. Quartz
that
image.
might as well. That might actually be it. Shoot a thing around.
Yeah. Quartz image. Shooting and touching aliens.
Hang on. If anything has it, the wiki should have it.
No, actually, our Tarek might have it. Static Advanced Termination Arrestor.
Insect model. What?
Insect model. What? Hold
SATA
on.
IM. As a prank, they began playing with the... Okay, hang on. SATA Ball was created during the latter years of colonization by humanity, when colonist children found themselves with little to do at school while they were being constructed. As a prank, they began playing with the settings on the prefab colony building's bug stopper force fields, the most common model being the SATA IM, an acronym standing for Static Advanced Termination Arrestor Insect Model. They tweaked the SATA fields to be strong enough to knock cups and books out of people's hands as they passed through. One day, a ball was accidentally kicked towards a door, and the modified SATA field bounced the ball back to the child. In short order, a few buildings were found missing SATA fields. The parents discovered children playing a new game out an empty lot as it was kept them out of trouble, quickly ordered more of the unexpected SATA fields, blah, blah, blah.
Blah, blah, blah is the right way in that, actually. But that means our Tarek had it, Static Advanced Termination Arrestor, so round of applause.
So it has nothing to do with the sport. That's
nor
soccer
nor
analogous
transgenders.
team activity. I still stand by my...
I like it. I think shooting and touching aliens is also a good one. That was solid. Well done. Well done.
Shoot a thing around. So as it's been described, it's actually... It sounds like it'll be a really good alternative to what was going to be just like Team Deathmatch, which is basically what Ender's Game was in this sort of zero-G game mode.
That's awesome. I mean, I would love to see like an Ender's Arena mode. They actually went and recreated Ender's Arena in this with that would be truly awesome.
Well, they already have. They've got the stars floating in space that you can anchor to that are...
That's true. That's all very true. And
the only thing I'm missing is the ability to pull your knees up and say the enemy's gate is down.
There you go. That's pretty much.
You still have to pass through the enemy's gate to win into the PAX East one. It was so clearly remade Ender's Game, but they've done it with now they've added a more interesting piece to it, which is instead of just making it straight team deathmatch, now you've got to try to pass this ball around, and people aren't out permanently when they get hit. They're only temporarily incapacitated. So the teamwork of trying to get the ball to someone who's in a position to send it to somebody else across the field is very soccer-like. Yes. Except with guns. Yes. and people like flying through the air at like a good 10 miles an hour and suddenly being stunned and going completely limp and crashing into these physical objects and going, "Oh, my spleen!"
Oh, so it's a slide tackle analogy.
Yes,
I got it. I'm with you. Now, that said, it should be more interesting than soccer because there'll be fewer ties.
I would hope.
Once again, feedback, talesofcitizens.com.
That's for our international listeners, because nobody in America is going to be like, no, he's right.
Hey, I do check out the Galaxy from time to time. I do enjoy them. You know, LA team. You got to root for the local teams, right? Which is why I go to the LA's own San Diego Chargers for football. So
wait, what?
LA has no team. The closest team is San Diego Chargers. Therefore, LA's own San Diego Chargers is the joke.
Gotcha.
And for reference, Deep Titanic. It's called soccer. Football is reserved for hitting each other very hard with your helmet.
And holding the ball in your hand.
Yes, exactly. Football has everything to do with your hands, not your feet. Get it right.
Soccer is perfectly explanatory. It explains that you're playing soccer.
Yes, it's
Whereas
soccer.
football explains that you're kicking the ball once with your foot, and for the rest of the game, playing it with your hands.
Yes.
That's how well they've named it. All right. Anyway,
The rest of that series, let's be fair.
right.
Hand egg.
Hand egg. So squabble ball, SATA ball. So
SATA Ball.
I think this is going to be a huge improvement over just having the team deathmatch. Now, I would love to see, like right now they showed like the repel slash compel
Yes.
section of the gun where you could sort of pull yourself towards a piece of the arena. I would love to have like swappable equipment that you could have like various classes. Like someone could have like a grappling hook that acted instead of like a pulley. Like you attach it to something and then you can swing around like Ender does. Well, Ender has somebody do. Like, because I have to say, as much as Tribe's Vengeance was shit, it was... Wait a minute. Tribe's Vengeance was the official produced one. The new one that is high-res is a different one, right?
Yeah, yes.
Tribe's Ascend is high-res. Good. I was getting right. Tribe's Ascend is pretty good. But as much as Tribe's Vengeance was shit, they got one thing right, and that's being Spider-Man. with the grappling hook in that was amazing. Like they had like an underground level, and you could literally be a heavy guy, but if you just Spider-Man your way through the level, like you just like whee and you swing, and then at the hierarchy of your next thing, you disconnect and you shoot somewhere else, and you literally are Spider-Man. Like that's good. They got to have like a Spider-Man class for.
You're only missing. You're only missing the opportunity to kiss, was it Kristen Bell? No, Kristen Dunst upside down.
Kirsten
That's
Dunst.
what you really need, yeah. I'm terrible at actors, what can I say?
Yes.
Or actresses in this case. I mean, that's equally as important. But, multiple classes, I'm sure they'll bring it. We already have multiple armors, different guns. I'm sure that the SATA Ball, whichever one it ends up being, the correct pronunciation, much like it's Xian, not Zian, will have multiple classes and different things you can do, equipment you can pick before the round, at the end of each score, a 10-second screen. I mean, straight out of Counter-Strike, right? I am absolutely certain if it's popular, they'll expand on it a little bit, just like with Arena Commander and the deathmatch mode. They've expanded on that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You get more missiles with each new life, that kind of thing.
Yep. So I am very excited for it. I think it's interesting to note that the way that they described this system, none of the players or the sportsmen that are playing in the SATA Ball game have any kind of thrusters. You have to push off of things and use your gun to sort of hook yourself onto things and pull yourself towards the stars, and move yourself around by pushing and pulling. And that is a very interesting way to do it, because they mentioned that that's a much harder way to do it than just to give people thrusters like on a backpack and let them move around like they're a spaceship. That's the easy way to do it. But they wanted to develop this so that essentially they'd be able to reproduce this, like they're using this to sort of develop the 0G fighting technology, so that when you're playing in the actual persistent universe and somebody hits the gravity generator or turns it off because boarders aren't used to it or what have you, and you have some guys with like mag boots and the boarders don't have mag boots, or vice versa, then they can have the system already understand how to push off of things and how to aim yourself and have all those mechanics in place, so that some people will probably have some kind of spacesuit with thrusters on it or mag boots or what have you when the 0G goes into effect in the persistent universe. But for people who don't, there is still a system in place that they can take advantage of instead of just floating there completely useless for the rest of the fight. And that is really cool.
It is, and actually, it can speak to some of the tactics you can involve in that ship-to-ship boarding that we're being, trained for, so to speak, because you've got the opportunity then to, if you're on the ship being boarded, you turn back on the artificial gravity as soon as the firefight starts, and then the boarders who aren't used to it are falling and being shot at. I mean, you're good to go, and it's like a whole sea I think back, it's like a merchantman or a constellation or one of the bigger ships with a lot of space in the hold. It's a great opportunity then to get a couple of second advantage, which may be enough. It will be very interesting. Now, that said, if any pirate boards a ship that does not have a full set of gear, the boots, the whole thing, they deserve what's coming.
Yeah.
If you're doing that, you are prepared. It's rare you find someone not bright enough to buy the cheap set of mag boots, assuming they're cheap. I mean, I can't imagine they cost much, and some cheap body armor, and hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll see how it goes. That looks like fun. Now,
I could totally see people throwing a force grenade and then coordinating with somebody who's back in the thing, and he's like, throwing a force grenade, hit the 0G in 3, 2, 1, and they turn off the gravity right as the force grenade's there to explode, and it sends the boarders crazy. They're like, all right, turn it back on. Like, meanwhile, the rest of the people who know it's coming have stopped and waited, and so the 0G didn't affect them at all, and then suddenly they're back and ready to go, and the other team's like flying in all kinds of directions, flopping on the ground. That could totally work.
Defender's advantage,
that's right.
Very much mimics a real engagement.
That's why the attackers will have to try and get to the control room or shut down the power or do something to turn it to their advantage.
Now, that said, according to the SATA Ball and Ashland Steel, the pistol tractor works like a grappling wire right now, so you can Spider-Man yourself around without any actual physical cable. Kirsten Dunst not included.
No, really? Dang.
It's too bad.
And I think it's no coincidence that the SATA Ball's final look basically looks like a soccer ball made of triangles instead of hexagons.
Yeah, I will go with that. Absolutely. The arena looks pretty cool though, and again, I can see it's the Ender game. The Ender game lookalike is pretty strong. We're missing the shoot off a body part mechanic, which hopefully they'll get.
I hope they make a procedural generating system for the arena so that you could have potentially a different setup each time. Now, it would be symmetrical, but it would be different each time. That would be cool.
That would be awesome. That'd be very handy.
The other thing that they were showing here is what they call jukes, but I think they're trying to show how they merge multiple animations together, and that the system itself tries to determine how fast you're moving and if it needs to change the way that it's pulling the animations and merging and meshing them together. It's a very interesting and very realistic looking, with a few hiccups here and there. But other than that, it really does look like the guy's got weight. He's got mass. He has to move his legs to slow himself and stop himself in a realistic looking way. But of course,
you actually feel the momentum with each of the movements instead of a hard stop.
And that's what I was going to talk about, because the momentum, it's pretty clear that when you stop moving, you're not going to stop moving, like not immediately, unless you're like walking, then you can stop immediately. But if you're jogging or in like the not quite sprint mode, then you're still going to have to get used to the fact that when you get to that corner, you got to start stopping a couple steps before you get there, not once you get to the corner. Because in every other game we have, the time between you let go of the key and your character stops is measured in milliseconds.
Yeah, it's a millisecond at best.
It's like 10 or 20 or 30 milliseconds at most in most of these games. The more realistic ones go up to like 100, right?
Fair. Well, you're being generous there. I think that many online games, online FPSs, when you release the key, the time you stop is when the server gets that from you, depending on your lag. But it seems to be with most FPSs, it's a really hard stop. I mean, there are some that have built in that little bit of change, but it's all hard coded for what the stop is, and it keeps you moving forward, thinking you've got the button to press the whole time.
Yeah, and it's definitely going to feel really different. Do you think it's going to drive people away because it's so different in that sort of movement thing? How fast are people going to adjust to that?
Quickly, I think. It's the same way that a lot of people adjust to going from, say, Team Fortress 2 to Arma 3. It's a very different game for all the mechanics are the same.
Well, yeah, when I'm flying through the air in Team Fortress 2 with a rocket jump, I have air control, which doesn't quite make... You don't get air control in Arma 3, is what I'm saying.
If you rocket jump, you're going to have a bad time in Arma 3 as well.
What? What do you mean?
So, but people really enjoy... they'll go from that to, the other, and they really enjoy both games. They also recognize that they're different. I think we'll have the same thing here. I don't think we're going to have a push for a more arcade-style FPS in Star Marine, in Star Citizen. We will have people that want more of a WoW-style interface, maybe for cities and that kind of thing. I want to see the heads. I want to see the names of everybody's head, and I want to be able to walk up and just talk to anybody that's there and that kind of thing. But I don't
want to see names over anybody's heads.
I don't either, but that's not the... But, again, if they do that, I want it to look as part of my part of my HUD or part of
Yeah.
my what?
Mobiglass.
Thank you, the Moviglass. It pops up and it does the overlay in front of you, and then every time you walk by, you see little holographic images in front of their face, almost like little billboards.
Like Watch Dogs did.
Yeah, exactly. Like Watch Dogs did. Excellent example.
Like an alternate,
So I would like
our augmented reality kind of thing. That definitely makes a lot more sense.
Augmented reality would make sense.
But being able to quickly and easily turn those on and off, like the relevant information isn't that the guy's name is Sniper XX69. The relevant information is that he's a bad guy. Just highlight him in red.
That seemed to be way too specific an example. Did you have a bad experience with your Sniper 69? XX Sniper 69.
I have a bad experience with every XX Sniper XX69 that I encounter in every game, as it happens.
Very fair. That makes perfect sense.
All right, the last little bit here is that they've got performance and matchmaking improvements that are going to be first revealed in Star Marine, but also are going to be backfilled into Arena Commander, which is awesome! I can't wait to have those because matchmaking and waiting a long time to load the game. Load times have been fixed to a large degree, but any other improvements, especially to performance, would be welcome.
I'm curious, and I wish they give more specificity here. I want to know how much of that is addressing the multi-GPU users versus single GPU users. They had a big update with that, but it still wasn't quite there, and I'm really hopeful that they'll just get all that nailed out early, because in theory that shouldn't change after you've got it done the first time. But I also recognize that is 1% of all users that care about that. So what are you going to do?
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to our concern of the week. This week...
I will now at this point just turn my mic off, put my headset down, and play calming music to myself.
I see. Yeah, this week the thing that I saw the most around the forums and around the subreddit was controller balance. And this isn't a new one, not by any stretch. But this particular thread sort of epitomizes the issue and the way I see it. Here's CIG has sort of already responded on this issue, and these people are acting like they haven't.
Multiple times, for reference.
Right. In part, what they should be saying is CIG's response is not clear enough. It is not satisfactory. Instead, their response is, they haven't really addressed it. Well, yes, they have. They've addressed it as far as they can, because the game's not finished yet! I need to get that on, like, a thing, like, instead of, this is bullshit, game's not finished yet. This is bullshit, game's not finished yet.
Okay, we've now addressed the elephant answer in the room.
Right.
So now we can move on to actually talking about the issue.
Right. So, I mean, the answer that has been given is pre-alpha is the state in which we are at the moment. And such, nothing is the current stage is representative of the final release. This applies to the control system as well. What that means is, yes, we know it's not really well implemented for all control types and that there is some kind of a problem here. We're working on it. We can't give you any details because there aren't any. Just wait until we get to them finished. Like, the other thing to me, we see all of the different things that they're doing with performance and matchmaking in the recent Star Marine update, and we see all the different tweaks that they're doing to try to make this back-end servers more reliable and things like that. That tells me that probably the vast majority of their programming right now that's happening not on Squadron 42, their programming talent is focused on those performance and matchmaking enhancements in the netcode. It's not focused on these other ancillary things that won't matter if the game can't run. They're not done with the physics simulation. They're not done with the damage model yet. Let the freaking coders finish building the game before we tweak the balance to be perfect. All right?
Well, and they've already stated they want this to be a controller agnostic approach. Now, everyone out there listening right now knows that's a tall goddamn order.
And I would argue it's impossible, but
yes,
not just a tall order. I say it's impossible.
And I will give my backing to that. I would not argue with that statement. However, what we're going to end up with is, for some things, some controllers will be better. For example, for Star Marine, if I try to use a joystick, by all means, hit me with a heavy object repeatedly. Because at that point, I have stopped using my gray matter to play the game. I'm down to just a twitching mess. Because it's not a game, it's a PC game. The mouse and keyboard is more precise, and for a first-person shooter, that's exactly as it should be. For a flight sim, there are advantages and disadvantages to the mouse and to a keyboard and joystick, or to two joysticks, or to the mouse and joystick, or to the myriad of other control schemes that are available out there. We know that, and we know with 6 Degrees of Freedom it changes things around a lot and how that is, and they're all analog inputs and etc. It's going to be a lot of work to get there, but in the end, what we're likely to have is, for some things, a mouse will be better, and for other things, a joystick would be better. And I will argue that for piloting and fine control, the analog inputs on a joystick will be where it's at. And for aiming, say a gimbaled weapon, you will have a better time aiming with your mouse than with your joystick. With the exception of some of the in-game aids you get. We already have some of that now with the reticle system they have, and it kind of auto locks you to what you're trying to hit, etc. It's not an auto aim by any stretch, but it does keep you on the right bearing for the most part when you get close.
Mm-hmm.
And you can disable that as a mouse. We're already seeing some of that. We're seeing how they're making it controller agnostic. A mouse user will still have better fine control, but the joystick user has better maneuvering, etc. It doesn't mean you can't use one or the other. It just means that one has an advantage in some areas and the other has an advantage in different areas. And as long as the advantages balance out, you should be just fine. And for 80% of users who don't want to use combat, sorry, I couldn't help you dig in there, it's not going to matter anyway. But for that upper tier, the max of Echelon, whatever you want to look at as far as the esports aspect, if there is one, that's going to be a big difference. And that goes back to what we talked about earlier with some tournaments can only use Rift, some have to only use the monitors, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
So another interesting thing, I didn't realize Vin from also known as Whitesnake from Team Legacy also already looked at this thread and posted his own thing, because part of the thing that happened in this thread is people got way off target and started saying like, I demand money back because this isn't out yet, and it's not like somehow this thread about controller balance is like the game isn't what I thought it was going to be, so I need all my money back. And other people are like, well, you can't because it's a pledge, it's not a thing. And then they get into this whole argument over whether it's legal or not legal to do pledges versus pre-ordering versus some other thing. And Vin says, hey guys, you don't need to bring up that argument all the time because everybody who's asked for a refund has pretty much got one. So where's the problem?
Yeah. Well,
That's
and
funny.
I've heard tell that they're giving refunds out in some instances, but not others.
Yeah.
But ultimately,
Maybe it's if you're a dick. Like, if you ask nicely, they'll be like, oh, sure, I'm sorry that we weren't able to help you. But if you're in there like, it's my right to demand the satisfaction of, and I will write the Better Business Bureau. And they're just like, yeah, denied. Like, legally, we know we're okay with this.
Yeah.
So, denied.
Here's the thing. If you're a user and you've pledged for an early access game, you knew what you were getting into when you started this process. I mean, I pledged back in Kickstarter.
No, they didn't, obviously. They didn't. They were...
So, you knew you were giving money to a game in development. You were giving money in the hope that it would be made and would be, and I'm going to quote here, the best damn space sim ever,
right.
Which is what I want. But I'm willing to say, you know what? I gave my money to this organization to do that with. They didn't give me final say in what they're making. They gave me a vision, and I agreed with it. Does it mean that their vision is going to match up to what I think it should? No. And am I okay with that? Absolutely. There's a reason I'm not a game developer, and no one else in this channel is. Okay, maybe a few of the listeners are. I can't make the blanket statement, but there's a reason why they have that job, and I don't. And it's not, because I'm much better at working on embedded systems or something like that. It's because they have a vision for a product. They got people to give them the money to make it. And now maybe we should let them just go make the goddamn game. That's my take on it. But when it comes down to controller imbalances and is it going to be perfect? No, there'll be advantages to one and to the other. It's not going to be the black and white issue that a forum post makes it out to be, which is basically what forums are for. They're there to make everything black and white, right? It all boils down to I'm right and you're wrong, and I want money back, which is kind of a horseshit way to look at it.
Yeah, you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of a quote that goes a little something like this. Quote, I always think that when people are telling me to keep an open mind, what they really mean is agree with me, unquote. And that's kind of what this is. Like, people are I just reading this, I understand that CIG cannot possibly make everyone happy in this debate. The unstated premise is, but I want them to make me happy in this debate.
Well, of course. Yeah, it's kind of like no one likes losing, but some people handle it better than others.
Sure.
Exactly. So, but see, you can't look at the way they make a game as winning and losing just because they don't do exactly what you want to do. We're all winning because, you know what, we're finally getting a goddamn space sim. Something that hasn't really been in the cards for, I'm going to go with half a decade now.
Yeah.
To the point that Steam even re-released X-Wing and TIE Fighter for May the 4th, something they had never done before. That's goddamn awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's wonderful to see that coming back.
So when you look at this thread, there's really only one conclusion that can be drawn. And that's... No, it's not. It's frozen.
This is bullshit.
There it is. Well, you know what? Button, it's not helpful if you act like a damn CD player.
This is bullshit.
Yeah, you're right, it's bullshit. So that's what I was going to end it on.
You need that red... No, that's the right way to end this show. You need that red button that just says bullshit across the top.
Yeah, we don't need to go too... I mean, the concern for... I already know, guys. I'm telling you, you're just... Have a good night, everybody. I am Bridger signing off.
See you guys.
This is bullshit.
Is this a serious concern? No! I'm gonna hit the no button like 16 times.
Yes, it is.
I just like,
serious.
you know what though? That's like therapy. Like being able to go in here, worse. But if you can hit the no button, it'll make your blood pressure go down, and then you have to quickly scroll around away from it.
So it's fun, like therapy is fun, in that as long as you don't actually listen to the therapist and his recommendations, it's good.
Yeah, the worst one though, we didn't go with this one, but because it's just so absurd that there's no merit to it at all. The other one, you could argue that there's some merit to it. This guy basically is arguing that CIG are complete and utter shysters, and they are just... trying to scam money out of people, and the game is never coming out. It's vaporware. And I'm like, you can play it now. You can watch if you played it in 0.8 and you're playing it now, you can see the improvement. They're not, this is like people that say that the moon isn't real, or like, because there are people out there like, oh, the moon's not real, it's painted there by the government. Like, what are you talking about, dude? I'll buy you a telescope. You can look at it yourself. You get a powerful enough personal telescope. You can see the places that we landed there. No, it's just a trick. They wrote it on the sky. Okay, no, I can't talk to you anymore. That's done.
It's a weather balloon.
It's a weather balloon.
Always there. Yeah.
We can fire a laser that bounces back from it hits a mirror that was placed there by the Apollo missions and bounces back to prove that it's nope, it's just a very reflective rock that was pretending to. I feel like I need to pull up that clip of Lance Armstrong, not Lance Armstrong, Neil Armstrong punching the guy in the face.
Which I remember when that happened, and I will admit, Neil Armstrong was a personal hero of mine and remains one to this day.
Oh, no, it was Buzz Aldrin that punched somebody. I'm sorry, not Neil Armstrong. Buzz Aldrin was the guy that punched somebody in the face when they tried to tell him he didn't go to the moon.
Okay, no, it was. So, and I was going to follow that sentence up with, but Buzz Aldrin was a childhood hero, and he managed to get knocked down just a bit when he was massively drunk at a football game, and was interviewed by I will be honest here, because I know this makes me a misogynist or sexist or some shit, but a very cute little reporter, and he looks at her and goes, "Hi, I'm Buzz," and I was like, "Oh no, don't kill my childhood here." And
he turned into the creepy old guy, and/or Joey from Friends. How you doing?
How you doing? Yeah, it was rough. I never want to see the interview again. You can still find it. Hi, I'm Buzz. Just Google search that. That's
a move right there.
It's solid. It's strong. If my name was Buzz, or for that matter, Thor, I could go for that.
Yes. Speaking of Thor.
All right.
Somebody's broken into the back room. Speaking of Thor, though, the new Avengers movie is awesome. It's totally awesome. I can't. Here's the thing I like about it the most. What I like about it the most is that they gave up trying to like hold your hand, and they said,
Yes.
listen, if by this point you haven't caught on to the fact this is a series, you need to see all the other ones to understand this one, we're not going to help you. You're just going to be lost. If you didn't see Winter Soldier, the whole first part of this movie is going to make no sense to you at all. And I had a hard time, actually. I kind of would have not minded a very brief reminder, like, last time in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Like, that would have been great. Because I actually forgot what happened in Winter Soldier until, like, halfway through the opening scene. I was like, oh, yeah, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, so I actually went and saw the Winter Soldier, or rented it, or whatever you do when you stream it from some service. But we watched it the day before we went and saw it. So I was totally prepped, but I was thinking to myself, has everyone here actually seen Captain America: The Winter Soldier? Because they would not be prepared for this.
No.
And yeah, no, they no doubt, were not prepared for it. But even then, the movie hung together pretty well, all on its own.
Absolutely. There were a couple of outliers. I mean, Thor has a few fun lines, but as a character, he's really just kind of on the periphery of this entire story. The story mostly revolves around Bruce Banner and Natasha and Hawkeye. And Iron Man is very heavily involved. But Captain America's not really, doesn't have much to do in this, except be the butt of everybody's joke when he said language, please.
Yeah, it's funny. Actually, let me try and find that. There was someone did like a Captain America recruitment poster done with that. Captain America wants you to watch your language.
That's great.
If I find the link to it.
You're going to use that in these horrible flame troll threads right next to, how about a nice cup of shut the fuck up?
The
very next one is Captain America wants you to watch your language. That's great.
Here we go. So let me post this up for you, Bridger, and you can always decide to stream that later or whatnot if you want to, but there you go. Oh, wait, no. Damn it. That was the wrong one. Never mind. Don't use that one.
Let's see what he actually showed us. He wants us to buy war bonds.
Buy war bonds now, yeah. See, it was on IMGUR, Imgur, Imager, whatever it is, but I think it's actually Imager, but
yeah, I think it's supposed to be Imager, but most people call it Imgur.
Yeah, so
because that's what it's spelled. I never actually say that in day-to-day parlance. I just read it, and in my mind, it's Imgur.
Yeah.
When I read it.
You pronounce it the way it's spelled. Yeah, I cannot find this anymore. That's too bad.
Let me ask you the tough question. Is it better than the first Avengers?
My opinion, no. The first Avengers was a better film. It didn't try to tackle as much in the same time span, but they're both very good for superhero action films. I mean, it's not going to be this deep, engrossing, mind-bending, oh, I couldn't believe that happened. And I'm going to say they let down their audience a little bit without that scene at the end.
Yes, the first thing out of my mouth when that movie ended was, fuck him, Joss Whedon. He just couldn't let him say it. I was waiting there, he said it, and then they cut him off in the last word. I was like, son of a bitch.
Yeah. That was the one thing. Oh, okay. Ashlyn DeSteele found it there in the Twitch chat, so you can fire that off.
Somebody just photoshopped the exact one that you found.
Yes, it was. I saw it and thought, oh, that's it. And wait, no, it's War Bonds. Hold on.
Yeah, that's not quite it. So, I'm definitely one of the things that I was kind of disappointed by, but not necessarily. It didn't do a bad thing. I just wanted to know what the heck happened with Thor's and Asgard, because at the end of Thor 2, The Dark World, which, by the way, when put into the movie theater's like little electronic display outside of the individual theater rooms, does this one have Fast and Furious? No, this one has Thor. It says Thor the D. That's exactly how it fits on there. We took a picture of it because Thor the D was what we went to see that night, apparently. But anyway, in Thor 2, The Dark World,
you wanted the D.
Spoilers, by the way, for Thor 2. But
I have not seen it yet myself.
Oh, you haven't?
I haven't. But spoil away.
You have to see it because
I will watch it tonight.
I can't spoil it.
No, do it. I don't care that much.
All right, well, because it was a really good movie. It was definitely better than the first Thor. And
Okay.
Loki dies, but of course he's the god of tricking and illusion, so he doesn't
Yes.
actually die, which you'd probably be able to figure out. But then at the end, actually, it wasn't even quite the end. They just reveal that somehow he has removed Odin and is now pretending to be Odin. Like, Loki is now the king, which that's like has been his goal forever, is to be the king of Asgard. And somehow he has managed to remove Odin and is now like wearing a holosuit to make him look like Odin, whatever it is, because
Okay.
that is blowing my mind. For like the last 4 Marvel movies or whatever, 3 Marvel movies, we still haven't resolved that. Like, Thor hasn't figured it out. Like, what's going on? I want to know. He's out there being Odin, and Odin is trapped somewhere in, like, a parallel pocket dimension or something, going, let me out! Or he's maybe pretended to be, I don't know.
Does that explain that line in the first Avengers where Loki has a hologram of himself and Thor leaps at it, lands in, like, that containment field, and then Loki says, will you ever not fall for that?
No, I think there was a scene in the first Thor that explained that line, because Thor: The Dark World happened after the first Avengers. It was like the first movie after the Avengers, I think. I have to pull up the whole cinematic
I need to get my timeline going here. Yeah, it's the movie timeline, very different.
Marvel Cinematic Universe.wikia.com.
Oh my god.
Yeah, after the first Avengers, you had Iron Man 3, then Thor, then the Winter Soldier, then the Guardians of the Galaxy. Honestly, I think Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers Age of Ultron are my 2 favorites out of this whole list. But Winter Soldier is also really good.
I don't know, man. Ant-Man.
We haven't seen Ant-Man yet. That's coming.
No, you haven't. I'm telling you, though, Ant-Man, guaranteed to be the best thing you've ever seen. Based on that trailer, all I could think of, I can't get out of this trailer fast enough. But I wish it could be otherwise.
I really liked the development that they had with the characters that they did spend a lot of time with, especially because most of those characters aren't probably going to be present in the next ones. I mean, we see, spoilers, by the way, for Avengers 2, we see Tony Stark basically walk away and say, you guys handle it for a while, I'm leaving. And no real explanation as to why, except that at the end of Iron Man 3, he kind of said, I'm putting down the suit. Somebody else can take care of it. But then, inexplicably, I think the explanation is, the Winter Soldier happens and S.H.I.E.L.D. gets completely screwed up, and he's called back to help by Captain America and what's his name? Samuel L. Jackson.
Nick Fury. I think what we need to do next time is when we say spoilers, we give it a 10 count. Because I think there was a 3-second gap between you saying spoilers and the actual massive spoiler.
Well, we started talking about the Avengers 2.
I'm with you. I'm
10
with you.
minutes
Not
ago.
arguing. But I'm saying, give it a 10 count. Say, and if you're still here, you fucked up, and then move on with our lives.
Well, yeah. So
don't feel bad. You're right. Now that said, I think outside of the film, the reason why the Iron Man's retiring is that the actor is just tired of it.
Really?
He doesn't want to do it anymore. Yeah, that was what I see. So, being, right next to LA, I get a lot of like showbiz news, even in my regular news, which is shocking to me. So
well,
I know
he's
more
basically done one of the Iron Man or Avengers movies every year for like the last 5 years. So I can see that being an issue.
And so Robert Downey Jr. has basically said no more. I enjoyed the character, but I don't think I'm interested in doing him anymore. He hasn't said flat out, I'm never doing this again. But that's been the talk. So either he's pushing for more money from each film, which makes sense. I mean, he is Iron Man. In the same way that Ed Norton didn't quite pull off becoming the Hulk, but really should have. And so he is Iron Man. He is absolutely the character that, if anyone else is playing Iron Man, you may not like him as much. In the same way that Ben Affleck being Batman's going to be goddamn weird.
Yeah, it is. I mean, as amazing as Marvel has been so far, I don't know how...
Where they go from here.
Well, I don't think Justice League is... They're just...
Yeah. No, Justice League
the people
is
they
not
have
going
trying
to
do the DC universe is just not doing well.
Marvel has a lot more experience with it. And I think they actually gave up some of their creative control to Hollywood professionals. And so, therefore, it becomes kind of an issue where they need to kind of catch up and figure out what they actually need to do with their intellectual property, with the comic books, and who they need to hire or contract to cast it correctly. Maybe even get like Peter Jackson to do the Justice League, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, part of the problem is that I think the movies that Marvel is trying to do. Oops, I clicked on the wrong thing. The movies that Marvel is trying to do are a lot easier than the movies that the DC people are trying to do, because they're trying to do very gritty, dark, realistic movies based on like the Batman, Superman universe, obviously, as we've seen. But those are way harder to take seriously. The Marvel ones are like light and goofy and fun action adventure movies. Yeah, and those are way easier to do because you can suspend your disbelief way easier for those. You're already prepared to do it.
Yes, absolutely. It's they are kind of just fun action films in the same way that The Bourne Identity is a fun action film. With great choreography. Although I want to say something about Star Marine, which I didn't get to in the show, but I think we need this for hand-to-hand combat. I want the half parkour, half ninja, Daredevil bullshit in Star Marine when we go into hand-to-hand, because that would be awesome. Just to watch it. I mean, even if your HUD never changes, but just to watch like the flying, bounce off the wall, jet-assisted kick.
Yes,
would be great.
I have to say the Daredevil stopped just short of the unnecessary flip ninja, which my friends and I coined that phrase when we were watching Wolverine. We came out of the theater and said, "Did you notice how many times those ninjas just did flips for no apparent reason? Like, gotta close this door, flip, then close the door. Like, not close the door while flipping, but like flip to the door, close the door. Gotta hop down this 2-foot ledge, flip down the ledge." Like, it was just at least 10 times in that movie you see them doing completely unnecessary flips. So they coined the term unnecessary flip ninja.
Well, when you've got a body painted Mystique, you've got to do a lot of movement like that. That's what it comes down to.
I guess so. But I don't think she was in the Wolverine, was she?
No, she wasn't. You're right. I was thinking more about X-Men.
Yeah, no, the Wolverine was just... It was great because we spent an hour and a half afterwards tearing it to pieces, and that was fun. So we got twice our money's worth in terms of time enjoyment, but yeah. Yeah,
no, I've not actually. I may not have seen the Wolverine either.
You probably didn't. I wouldn't have recommended it necessarily, unless you were going with a group of friends to talk about it afterwards.
Oh, okay. Well, I have no friends, so
can we take a moment to say how odd? And I assume this is something from the comics, but the Victoria Iron Man suit that he designed just to take out the Hulk, that was awesome.
Yes,
that was super cool.
That was awesome, and it gave him a chance to have some real CGI-based humor, like the piston-driven punch that just repeatedly bashes the Hulk.
Go to sleep. And then he's the genius. I love it. Tony Stark knows that the Hulk isn't going to just sit here while the Pistons punch him. He's going to grab the thing and is prepared for it, and it's just going to suck his arm in, and he's going to take him. And that movie, so many moments of it were like just jabs at the terrible Superman movie, The Man of Steel. Whereas like Superman doesn't give a crap about human casualties. He's killed tens of thousands of people in this fight in the city, where he's like, nope, we got to try to get you to some place less dense of human population. Now, of course, the Hulk didn't let him, but the fact that he attempted to is just like, Superman, that made no sense for your character. And we're not even as close to being as good as Superman is typically portrayed as.
Yeah. No, Tony Stark as better morally than Superman really shows how dark that movie got.
Yeah. How bad it was.
Yes.
I don't know. I think we're going to have to go see Batman versus Superman specifically so that we can spend an hour and a half afterwards tearing it to pieces. Like, I cannot imagine us ever liking the movie based on the trailer. The trailer just... Oh, it's so corny. Yeah. It's so corny. It doesn't feel like they're pulling off the Christopher Nolan Batman Begins.
Actually, if I might, with some luck here, I can take this to a place it should never have gone. What they need to do is reanimate Heath Ledger's corpse to play the Joker. See, that got dark and creepy real quick.
It did. That's exactly what they need, dark and creepy. That's the Joker.
And so a zombie Joker would be awesome. And just, dub Heath Ledger's lines in as appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. So this is interesting. So we've got Ant-Man this year. So that's the 2 Marvel movies this year. They're doing 2 in 2016, 2 in 2017, and 3 in 2018.
Oh, good gods.
Yeah, I heard that they were spinning up another studio production team to work on movies. So we've got Captain America: The Civil War and Doctor Strange next year. So they're introducing a brand new character, Doctor Strange, which I don't know anything about. I know about the Doctor Strange in the Batman universe from the games, but I don't know anything about the Marvel universe Doctor Strange.
I would be shocked that there are 2 characters of the same name, but maybe I shouldn't be. Though that said, apparently, according to Carnifex 2005, Tony Stark is going to be the bad guy in Captain America: Civil War. And so I never did read the Iron Man comics or the Avenger comics when I was a kid. I had Conan the Barbarian. That was my comic book selection. Sorry, guys. And if Tony Stark is the bad guy in Captain America: Civil War, does that mean that this is about the whole set of comics that came out after the Patriot Act in real life was passed? Because I know Tony Stark went super neocon after the Patriot Act was passed. Like in the comic book, they made him this like super neocon good guy who then basically went a little nuts about driving out terrorists and finding them wherever he could. And it went from the good guy to the well-intentioned bad guy in short order.
Yeah, that might be the case. I know the Civil War was a fairly recent storyline. I don't know if it was pre or post 9/11, but it makes sense that would be a reaction to the 9/11 situation with the Patriot Act. Yeah.
And then, from what I understand, then he started fighting the other superheroes because they disagreed, and Stark couldn't have that because it became un-Avengers.
So this is interesting. This is really interesting. So we're going to have Civil War and Doctor Strange next year. Okay. Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Thor Ragnarok in 2017. So we're not going to even get to resolve Thor the D for 4 years after Thor the D comes out. They're going to finally resolve the fact that Loki took over the throne of Asgard. Like, they're waiting there.
To be fair, it's a big D.
It is. It is. Then, you know what? The other thing that I think, Captain America in one of the comics actually did wield Thor's hammer.
Did he?
Yes.
I know.
And they made a point of showing in the Avengers that he was able to move it a little bit.
Oh, a little bit.
I think there's going to be, my prediction is in Infinity War Part 1 or Part 2. That's the next Avengers. That's the next 2 Avengers movies.
Okay.
They're going to have a moment where Thor is utterly defeated by maybe Thanos or whatever the big bad is that they're fighting at the time. And his hammer is laying there, and it's the only thing that can maybe stop or destroy the stone that's currently going to big MacGuffin. And Captain America is going to be able to wield it. And I think the overall story that explains all that is that in the Age of Ultron, Captain America is not yet worthy. He is almost worthy of wielding Mjolnir.
Mjolnir, yeah. So my question is, what makes him more worthy? I thought it was about purity of character, and in my experience, as you get older, your character tarnishes pretty quick.
Well, no. Let me see. Mjolnir, with the J there.
Yeah. Yep.
I looked this up, actually. There's a number of different things. There's actually a lot of different characters that have wielded Mjolnir, but it appears that that based on the characters that have wielded it and the things that we have read that kind of explain it in various pieces, it requires a number of things. The ability to kill, because all those that have wielded Mjolnir have had a warrior spirit, like a Viking warrior spirit. So you have to be able to kill for your cause. And that's why Spider-Man in one of the Avengers movies couldn't wield it, because he has the moral code that prevents him from killing, and that's the thing that stops him from wielding it.
Daredevil couldn't have it either then.
Well, so there's willingness to kill, warrior spirit and warrior lifestyle, warrior ethos, essentially. And there is also nobility and humility. Humility being very important, and you saw that in the first Thor. Thor was unable to wield it because he wasn't humble enough. He got too full of himself, and that's why he was sent to Earth as a punishment to learn humility.
And I would argue that he absolutely should have been unable to wield it prior to getting to Earth based on how full of himself he was. But
Right.
yeah, I'm with you.
Well, it might have been that the humility aspect of it was added by Odin at that point, like within the context of the show. So now we have to kind of figure out what about Cap right now makes him not worthy of the hammer.
I think I have it. He couldn't kill Bucky.
Yeah, he couldn't kill Bucky. He's killed plenty of other people. But I think it's more of the fact that he hasn't... And they kind of addressed it a little bit in Age of Ultron. He's not comfortable with the fact that he's a warrior.
Okay.
Right? He was always like when he was like a kid in the first Avengers, he wanted to be the warrior. Right? But he wasn't ever really the warrior. He tried, but he wasn't a warrior. And now that he is, and somebody's pointed out to him, like, you're not happy when there's peace. Like, he's not comfortable with that thought, the fact that he always has to have a war to fight. They kind of made that seem to be the case. So he's very close, but he's not comfortable with himself being the warrior that always has to have a war to fight. So he is going to embrace that side of himself between now and the Infinity War, and that's why he will be worthy, because he is noble, he is humble, and he's definitely willing to kill people, because he's killed a ton of Hydra people in both those Avengers movies. So he was no problem with that at all. So that is what I think we're going to see, is some pure moment where Thor's down, the hammer's the only thing that can save the day, it's the only thing powerful enough to stop MacGuffin X, and Cap just goes over to it and picks it up and just uses it. He's just like, I got this. I'm totally comfortable with myself now, and we can do this. Like that, I think that we're gonna see that.
Oh, and that should be very
that would be a really cool foreshadowing, the fact that he could almost move it. But it was also a funny joke to watch Thor's eyes go, oh shit.
No. Yeah, although it sounds like from the comic book, Thor should be prepared that anyone can grab the damn hammer at any time, because apparently there are plenty of them that do.
Well, there's 14. There's 14 to be specific. So there was one of the most famous, so Don Blake, apparently, I don't know who that was.
News to me too.
Let's see. Eric Masterson. He was Thor's friend in one series. Jake Olsen in the Mighty Thor #2. Apparently, Jake Olsen was an EMT that died when Thor and Destroyer were fighting each other, and then like Thor was like reincarnated in Jake's body or something. There was some weird reasons why he could. Then there was another guy, Roger Red Norvell, was allowed to become Thor just so he could die. Okay. And yet he's still alive. Then there's Beta Ray Bill, which is like a camel, kinda? Like he's an alien that kind of looks like a camel, like a humanoid camel, and he was able to wield the hammer for a long time and claim the power of Thor. Then there was Captain America, the Mighty Thor in 1988, where Cap was actually able to wield it. Wonder Man was apparently able to wield it, which I assume is Wonder Woman's brother or something?
I don't know. Actually, wouldn't Wonder Woman be DC, not Marvel?
Oh, you're right. No, yeah, it must have been like a Captain Marvel type anyway.
Yeah, okay.
Then you've got Thog, Lockjaw in the Pet Avengers. It's a freaking frog?
Okay, I'm going with whenever they needed a Deus Ex Machina.
He was cursed into a form of a frog by a gypsy, and he was apparently able to wield Thor's hammer.
Sort of answers number one. Yeah, I'm going to go with whenever they needed something to advance the plot and they couldn't find anything else, it was the hammer.
Yeah. And then there was a couple others in various Thor things. Ragnarok is another character, apparently, who was able to wield the power of Thor.
Hey, I can see Ragnarok.
Oh, and in the crossovers, they had the Marvel versus DC crossovers in the 90s and early 2000s. Superman and Wonder Woman were both able to wield it, though apparently Superman was only able to wield it because Odin rescinded the requirement of the warrior to be able to kill, because Superman doesn't kill.
I was about to say, yeah, well, apparently he does. Thousands and thousands of people. All right, so
maybe I didn't read it. Oh, Superman was only worthy because circumstances demanded it. As soon as the battle was over, Supes couldn't keep it up anymore.
Well, there you go.
Interesting. And then apparently the
mention.
Hulk also once thought he was worthy because he was holding Thor's hammer when Thor called it to him. Basically, he just held onto it while Thor moved it around, but he thought he was worthy. That's great.
Perfect. I like it.
Apparently, Spider-Man was one day destined to
2099?
be a hammer bearer.
Okay. Spider-Man 2099. Spidey got old.
Yeah, that's
And
like
Jerry-
Spidey Beyond. All right, we've probably been talking for far too long.
Way too long.
It's 9 o'clock. All right, thanks
All
for
right.
watching, everybody. We're gonna sign off. Have a good
Have
one.
a nice night. See you in 2 weeks, guys.